Part 2 of the Historic Upper Sandusky Walking Riding Tour presentation focuses on the structures in the South Sandusky Avenue National Historic District. What is a National Historic District? It is a district listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The National Register of Historic Places is the nation's official list of buildings, structures, objects, sites, and districts worthy of preservation for their significance in American history, architecture, archaeology, and culture. Its purpose is to ensure that properties significant in national, state, and local history are considered in the planning of federal undertakings and to encourage historic preservation. Federal undertakings mainly meant highways. The National Historic District begins on the west side of South Sandusky Avenue with the house at 326 South Sandusky. It is Italianate in architectural style, a style popular between 1840 through 1885. Italianate architecture has several characteristics that you can look for in the houses in the National Historic District. The houses tend to be 2 to 3 stories, have generally low-pitched roofs, widely overhanging eaves with decorative brackets or corbels, have tall, narrow windows, frequently elaborate crowns or lintels over the windows, and many have a square cupola or tower at the top. This house, number 30, at 448 South Sandusky Avenue, is an example of Victorian shingle or Queen Anne-style frame architecture and was built around 1910. Look at the many different types of detailing, including the paint colors and shingles, which characterized Queen Anne styles. In addition, most Queen Anne-style houses have steeply pitched roofs with gables. Built in 1870 through 79 by S.H. Hunt, a dry goods dealer, grain operator, and partner in the Upper Sandusky Straw Board Company, the house is Italianate with front gable and decorative detailing on the eave brackets. The original double front door with transom has a label lintel, which is a horizontal piece across the top of an opening, as of a door, that carries the weight of the structure above it. Windows have shaped lintels. Look on the south side of the house, the funeral home driveway side, and notice the stone keystones on the west end of the second floor windows. The house at 486 South Sandusky is an Italianate-style house built in 1867 by James Roberts, a banker, merchant, mayor, and large landowner. Mr. Roberts lived in the house for 5 years and then sold it to Mr. Richard Carter, president of First Citizens Bank in Upper for many years. Mr. Carter and his wife, Catherine Bryant Carter, called Kate, came to Upper Sandusky from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. They were the late Richard Hull's maternal grandparents and Catherine Hull's great-grandparents. In the early 1930s, Lovell Hull, Richard Hull's father, and his wife, Martha Carter, daughter of Richard and Kate Carter, moved into the house. Lovell and Martha Hull lived here until 1958, when Dick and Minette Hull and their children, Jane, Catherine, James, and John, moved into the house. Minette Hull currently lives there. The house had never had children living in it until Minette's 4 children moved in. It's a good house to have withstood all that activity. This house is considered to be one of the best examples of Italianate architecture in Ohio. It has a simple hipped roof with wood cupola on top with a copper finial. The first floor or east front windows are 6 light, which means 6 panes, floor to ceiling. The windows can be opened so that people can walk through them onto the porch. All the porches on the house are original. The house across the street from the Hull house was built in 1866 by Sylvester Watson, a banker and large landowner. It is also a beautiful example of Italianate architecture. The late Christine Bilhart Cope lived in the house, which belonged to her mother's family, the Bowmans. Miss Cope's father was a Bilhart. The house currently belongs to Dr. Michael Webb and his wife Karen. The interesting thing about this house and Minette Hull's house is that they are essentially the same house, mirror images of each other. Look closely at the shapes of the two Italianate houses across Sandusky Avenue from one another at 486 and 497. The placement of windows and doors are reversed, but shapes of the houses are identical. The house at 486 has a cupola with a copper finial, which is not present on the house at 497. Both are excellent examples of Italianate architecture with hipped roofs, hooded windows, deep eaves, and elaborate corbels. The front porch on the house at 497 is not original. This house is an example of Queen Anne Revival style. It was built in 1890 by George Shannon and remains in the Shannon family today. Patty Niedercore, who owns the house with her husband Larry, is a Shannon descendant. You can clearly see the change in architectural style from the previous houses featured. In talking to one of the family members connected to the house, I learned that it was built as a wedding gift for George Shannon's wife. She hated the house and thought it was ugly. This Italianate style house was built in 1870 through 74 by Murillo Gillette. It has unusual streaky bacon stone string courses. Those are the cream stripes in the red brickwork. The house is currently owned by David and Laura Bacon, no relation to Streaky. Note the gabled attic dormers with decorated sandstone surrounds. The same dormer windows can be seen across the street at the Lucas Batten Funeral Home, as these houses started out as mirror images of one another. The picture does not portray the current porch, which now has wooden spindles and is an exact replica of the original porch. The last house we are going to visit in the historic district is at 449 South Sandusky. This house was also built by Murillo Gillette, an officer of the Upper Sandusky National Bank in 1854. It was built for Mr. Lewis Wesley Hull, paternal grandfather of Richard Hull. Mr. Hull was a local banker. A member of the Hull family lived in the house till the mid-1950s. Mr. Lewis Hull came to Upper Sandusky from Bucyrus, Ohio, where his family had been in banking. Each of the 5 Hull brothers had a bank in a different town, including Upper Sandusky, Findlay, and Bucyrus. The house in the photo is the only example of Italian villa architecture in Upper Sandusky. The house originally had open verandas on the north, west, and south sides. The base of the south side veranda is still visible, but the roof and columns have been removed. There is an enclosed cupola called a belvedere on the roof. An older picture of the house shows its features a little more clearly. The corbels in particular stand out, as does the belvedere on the roof. This concludes the South Sandusky Avenue National Historic District portion of the walking tour presentation. There are descriptors for additional houses in the walking tour brochure.